my gosh, yep, I'm already feeling these brakes are far less powerful. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time on this beauty, the Polygon Siskiu T0, which, as you can tell, is spec to the nines. We're talking Fox factory suspension, top-tier Maxxis tires, a Shimano group set. I mean, it's basically a who's who of mountain bike buzzwords. So that got me thinking, how much of what I actually love about this bike is chalked up to the fancy components versus the frame? And more specifically, which of these fancy parts makes the biggest difference? So today I'm doing a little experiment. I'm going to downgrade my T0, swapping out everything from the suspension to the brakes, in hopes to see which of these fancy components really do make a tangible difference on the trail. Hopefully that'll lead to some entertaining shenanigans and, more importantly, help you decide where to invest your money when it comes to upgrading your own bike. But before we start tearing this bad boy apart and swapping out the parts, let's take the T0 out for a quick test ride and see where it stands as is. As expected, the T0 handled the steep switchbacks and rocky loose descents like a champ. But I didn't come here to wax poetically, I came here for science. Because like I said at the start of the video, it can be kind of difficult to suss out what percentage of performance is coming directly from the frame versus the components. And that's exactly why I wanted to run this little experiment. In just a second here, I'm going to be swapping out just about everything from the top of the line T0 components to more entry mid-level components. The Fox factory suspension will be switched out for a RockShox Recon Silver Fork and X-Fusion O2 Pro R shock. I'll also be swapping out the XT group set for a 10-speed Shimano Q's drivetrain and Shimano MT200 brakes. And it's the same story with the wheels. These Polygon MT9s with Shimano XT hubs are being replaced by lower tier MT6 wheels. Now, one thing I'm not going to be switching out during this video is my dropper post. I actually did a whole video testing out that upgrade, and let me tell you, it is a game changer. As for the components I actually am swapping out, I've basically ridden with all of these components on various different types of bikes, and I'm generally pretty impressed with how they perform. But I've never tried them back to back with that higher tier counterpart on the same frame. So I'm genuinely curious to see how this goes. So without further ado, let's get out there and get ripping. All right, so the T0 has officially been downgraded pretty significantly. And we're on our test ride to see just how much of a difference that those downgrades make. And therefore, hopefully being able to determine if the frame is really where the money's at or in those fancy components. This is definitely a good climb to get a better idea. It's pretty steep. Always hard to tell from the POV cam, but pretty steep, but not super techy. The techiest stuff are the switchbacks that we'll be hitting. Otherwise, not a ton of rocks in the climbing trail, which is nice. Already I'm feeling like the bike feels a little heavier, which I'm guessing is wheel size, or not size, wheel weight, because we did swap out the wheels. These definitely, as we're changing, felt heavier. That's not huge, but I think I can feel it for sure. Another thing is I'm really missing my extra 2 gears to shift into my granny gears, because we swapped for a 10-speed, and I'm definitely feeling it on some of these steeper sections. Breathing heavier than I was on the first run. Other than that, I feel like everything felt somewhat more comparable. All right, now for the fun part, although could be a little less fun than first lap with all the bougie stuff. Oh my gosh, yep, I'm already feeling these brakes are far less powerful, so it's a little sketchier on these steep chutes. Sorry, I sing when I'm nervous. Still fun? Ah! Woo! Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm feeling that. Let's brake a little more for this section. because I'm full breakage and this is how fast I'm still going. All right. Phew. Still fun, still ripping. That is a tight little fun section. Phew. Woo, cool little exposure here. And then when you get a little less exposure, you just let it fly. All right, that was fast flow. Felt pretty good. Now for a little tech jank. Woo! Oh gosh. Yep. Again, feeling the brakes, not my powerful brakes that I love. These are MT200s, Shimano. Here we go. Hold on, I'm gonna focus here. Oh, my fork didn't want to do that as much as it did, as much as that Fox factory fork wanted to. That felt a little rough, not gonna lie. So I'm definitely feeling the suspension too. Okay, here's a little more flow, I can talk again. Geez, that fork that it's stock with, the Fox factory 36, it is so beautiful. I love that fork. I feel really confident doing just like any level of tech with it, but honestly that wasn't that crazy and that felt pretty sketch. So not loving this fork. I think that is definitely a worthwhile investment, but all in all, definitely this frame is still carrying its weight and performance because I'm still having a blast. Phew. There's only been a couple sections that I've been like, ooh, I maybe pushed that a little too much on the bike with what I'm riding. Yeah. So it probably comes as no surprise, but the most noticeable downgrade was the suspension. That was huge. You know, when we started at the top of this trail, and this is a good tester trail because it has nice fast flow and then some real janky tech also. So you kind of got the full spectrum. With the flow, not super noticeable. It was, you know, not quite as supple as I prefer my suspension to be during the flow section. But then as soon as we hit the tech, in particular, you know, you'll see it in the footage, one really tech janky section, little chute that just felt so uncomfortable with the lower tier fork and shock, to be honest. Other huge downgrade was brakes. I feel like suspension and brakes, those are things that you typically do want to be upgrading. So to feel the difference back to back, especially starting with the upgrade and then going to the downgrade, that was kind of an interesting juxtaposition. So seeing that, those brakes, the MT200s, they just weren't giving me the power I wanted. Again, especially because this trail is steep. If you're just gonna go some XC, then maybe you're fine with that. But anytime you're gonna take it on something like what we just did, that was another big downgrade that I don't recommend. As far as the drivetrain, I was slightly surprised because going into it, I'm kind of a drivetrain person that like, I want mine to be super dialed and I love the XT. I was feeling like this is gonna be a big difference. Of course, on the climb it was. Like having those two granny gears I really wanted to go into was rough. But, you know, the shifting was actually fairly smooth. Like nothing was getting too messed up. And I think that oftentimes comes from that you're maintaining your drivetrain, right? So that wasn't as big of a difference as I thought it might be. Weight savings too, probably noticed that the bike did feel a little heavier, a little, you know, less maneuverable with the downgrades, which could be wheel size. I think the fork's a little heavier, you know, some of those things. Not hugely noticeable, not something that I would put a lot of effort into. I'd say if you went from carbon wheels to, you know, the wheels I had on there, maybe that'd be a bigger difference, but ultimately not too big of a difference. So there you have it. Drop a comment below letting me know what you think the biggest upgrade or the best upgrade you ever made and why. You know, was it the suspension, was it the brakes? I'd love to hear it. While you're down there, like and subscribe to the Bikes Online channel where I'll be hanging out. After you've done that, get out there, get on your bike and get ripping.